So Vajra statement 9. Yeah. People claim that through the cause, which is harming a bodhisattva, one makes a connection to the result, which is happiness. So this particular view or this particular thought, understanding, it's because somewhere in the different parts in the sutras, in the texts, there were some examples of how, seemingly at least, there are some examples, or again, maybe not so much, well, there are examples, but there are places in the sutras and tantras where, again, as I say, especially in Mahayana, Vajrayana materials, sometimes the words kind of are exaggerated, very, very bombastic. So some places you can find it even says, that it is so, like someone who has bodhicitta is so precious and so amazing that and therefore, someone who has bodhicitta, their qualities are so amazing, so wonderful, that even if others are negatively connected to them, even that negative connection at some future point will ripen into something positive. So kind of like to say, how amazing bodhicitta is. Bodhicitta is so amazing that, of course, so then the implication is in those cases is that now, how much more wonderful if you connect to someone with bodhicitta in a positive way. If even connecting with them in a negative way, meaning like harming them, or you yell at them, even though in the short term, you might suffer some negative consequences, but this bodhicitta is so amazing that even if you insult them now, somehow it can turn into happiness later. Yeah. So it's that. It's addressing the literal conclusion of those exaggerated, bombastic words. So here, of course, not surprisingly, Kyopa Rinpoche's statement is no connection to happiness exists through causing harm to a bodhisattva. Yeah. He says, we should not walk around thinking, that harming a bodhisattva can, create some positive results for you. So Chodrak's commentary, because the bodhisattva is one who benefits others in response to harm and is even more compassionate toward the person who harms him, such as quoting the Bodhisattva, I pay homage to that source of happiness who connects even those who harm him to happiness. Yeah. So here's one example, Bodhisattva says, even those who harm bodhisattvas will bring these people who harm him to happiness. So then Chodra even quotes Jigten Sumgun. So that this seems to suggest that maybe these views, it's not even like, some other people in some other lineage, In the end, this is again, when Kyopa Rinpoche say some other people, he's not even necessarily talking about some other lineage, some other tradition. Although in later Tibetan debate style and disputation and refutation style writings, often it says, some people say, then usually they're criticizing, some other lineage, some other tradition. But here, remember that all these statements were made across different times, towards different people, in different situations, and they were brought together. So this is not even about other people per se. These are primarily him answering the people who come and seek guidance from him. So anyway, Chodra says, moreover, Jigten Sumgun said, even if a bodhisattva becomes impoverished, he never abandons beings. And even if they harm him, through his compassion, they are connected to happiness. Thus, even if they harm him, he benefits them because his love is even greater, and he chiefly undertakes efforts to purify their veils. In another place, it compares one who has bodhicitta, meaning a bodhisattva, to be like a sandalwood tree. So apparently sandalwood, the more you, I guess you could say, the more you traumatize the tree, the more fragrance comes out, like the wood. It makes sense, because the tree produces the oil. So the more you kind of beat the tree, the more it secretes the oil that produces the scent. And so it says bodhisattvas are like sandalwood trees, You heap on abuse onto them, they give out more fragrance. Yeah. So here, both Shantideva, Jigten Sumgun, Chodra says, yes, bodhisattvas are like this. But please don't then make the conclusion, therefore, let's go abuse, bodhisattvas. Moreover, because the one who made the mistake regretted and confessed, therefore the result of happiness ripens. So here he introduces, he says, but actually, in these examples, the person who is hurling abuse at bodhisattvas, it's not so much that their abuse led to their happiness. Their abuse, of bodhisattvas, their mistreating of bodhisattvas, their harming of bodhisattvas, that's always harmful. But then they gave rise to regret, and they confessed, and therefore, then on the bodhisattva side, because the bodhisattva then, like someone who harms a bodhisattva has come into the bodhisattva's kind of you can say, vicinity, right? Or context, then the bodhisattva never gives up on that. Yeah. This is like the king Suradatta, who killed the Dharma teacher, Supushpachandra. Supushpachandra, however, did not harbor any anger. The king repented, confessed, and made offerings to the corpse. Moreover, he practiced the sustenance and purification ceremony and remained celibate. Yet, through the ripening of killing a bodhisattva, he was born in hell. Moreover, it is like the hunter who hurled a stone at the head of a monkey bodhisattva. Furthermore, the Bodhisattva says, the Buddha said that if someone cultivates negative thoughts about such a patron bodhisattva, he will remain in the hell realms for as many eons as the number of times he has cultivated the thought. Moreover, the Madhyamaka Avatara says, being furious with the bodhisattva, the virtue that arose from generosity and discipline, accumulated over 100 eons, is destroyed in an instant. Therefore, there's no greater evil than impatience. Furthermore, since this has been taught, how will you obtain happiness by causing harm to a bodhisattva? it is by confessing that one has caused harm, using the four powers, that one is taken care of by the bodhisattvas and connected to happiness. So not the harming. In fact, we should avoid. Elsewhere, in another context, it says, since, then following from this, since we don't know, who is or who isn't a bodhisattva, therefore, do not harm anyone. I mean, of course, not physical harm. Most of us avoid that, but do not even, cause any difficulties, problems, because we don't know who is or isn't a bodhisattva. Then even, right, this idea, you say, yeah, of course, I don't think that way, like if I harm a bodhisattva, somehow, bodhisattva is so great that in the end, benefit will come. Yeah. Of course, I don't think, like we walk around thinking like that. But do we walk around behaving like that? Sometimes, I think. Such as, when we see someone who is like kind or patient or generous, I mean, we might not label necessarily this person as bodhisattva, but we have then, sometimes the tendency of just kind of taking advantage of them. Yeah. Kind of laying our stuff on them. Because on some level we know, oh, this person will forgive. But if this person is kind of, you are a little more, like, better not, the person might snap back, But then if the person is, then we tend to bring our crap, and drop it off, in front of people who are very tolerant. That is a form of, thinking that, oh, it's okay, he's very forgiving. And so you keep piling on the crap and think somehow you can, even if yeah, I'm kind of, but it's okay, he's very forgiving. Oh, she's very nice, very patient. And then we keep taking advantage and harming and think, oh, it's okay. That is one way, we actually act like that, even if we don't think like that. That no connection to, that through the cause, which even can be harming a bodhisattva, we make a connection to the result, which is happiness. It says, no, this is not possible. So be very careful with this. So statement 9, pretty straightforward. Now statement 10. Statement 10 is one that, now finally clarifies. The topic of statement 10, like we already know, but now in a very succinct way, it puts it for us. The results of virtue and non-virtue occur separately. The result or the outcome, the outcome of virtuous and non-virtuous karma take place separately. So they don't mix. All our virtuous and non-virtuous actions will give rise to results that are distinct insofar as the results or the outcomes are concerned. They don't turn into hybrids. There are no karmic hybridity going on. Yeah. So meaning, like you cannot do genetic engineering on karma and have like a more flavorful tomato or a brighter tomato because you have toyed with the engineering of a tomato. It's like, no, you cannot put salmon and tomatoes together, and you cannot bury some salmon next to your tomato, and then expect your tomato to get redder. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. But actually they do this kind of new varieties of tomatoes that they do take salmon, harvest certain, and to do genetic engineering. But it says, no, karma doesn't go like that. Huh? Karma ripen distinctly. So elsewhere I've said before, I'm going to repeat here, if we want to be more clearer in our minds, then we should say, insofar as karma, and here karma means action, on the cause end, it's called karma. On the result end, it's called vipaka. Literally then, result. So when we look at the cause end of things, then we can say, insofar as causation or actions are concerned, we can distinguish them as virtuous or non-virtuous. Also skillful, not skillful. Insofar as outcome or results are concerned, then we can label them as good and bad, desirable and undesirable. Yeah. Sometimes we say, oh, this is a virtuous result, or this is a non-virtuous result. It's not wrong, but I think it gets a little confusing if we say virtuous result, non-virtuous result. I think result is more about whether we like or we don't like. Yeah, not necessarily virtuous or not virtuous. Yeah? And if we think of result as not so much as virtuous and non-virtuous, especially whether we like or we don't like, we desire them or we don't desire them, then it helps illuminate how when karma ripen, when karmic seeds, cause seeds ripen, when they ripen, it's chiefly due to the way we habitually respond to experiences, that then we end up with feelings of like or dislike, feelings of desirable or undesirable. So anyway, the commentary. This Vajra statement is about propulsion and culmination. And so Chodra is using some technical terms developed in the Abhidharma explanations. So he says, if we look at this Vajra statement, recognize that it is about propulsion, what pushes something, and culmination, how that force that has propelled something, how they culminate, how they end up. Both the propulsion and culmination are virtuous in the case of King Bimbisara, who had faith in the triple gem in the beginning, middle, and end. Both the propulsion and culmination are non-virtuous in the case of the Buddha's cousin, Devadatta, who in the beginning, middle, and end harbored wrong views about the three supreme jewels. So these are two characters in the life of the historical Buddha. King Bimbisara was a great patron of the Buddha. Then Devadatta is the cousin who was always jealous of the Buddha and always causing problems for the Buddha. Propulsion and culmination cannot be mistaken for one another. The Buddha predicted that Sunashatra would obtain the result of nirvana because he developed faith and took ordination. And it is also very well known that as a result of his wrong views, he first went to the hell realms. So this Shunakshatra's case is given as a more complicated case. That yes, the Buddha did predict that he would obtain nirvana. And it's because, in the beginning, he had faith, he took ordination. Then in the middle, right, he created negative karma that also led to his created negative karma in terms of harboring wrong views, that he ended up in the hell realms. The point about the wrong views is this, right? It's not just that the views are wrong, but that once the view is wrong, right, then the actions, both physical and verbal actions, will kind of go according to the negative views, the mistaken views. Ajatashatru, Sri Gupta, Suradatta, and so on are illustrations of this principle. So here, very briefly, he gives some names, right? Furthermore, it is similar in the case of Shrona Kotikarana, the butcher of the local village, the prostitute, and the Sangha of Buddha Kashyapa. Therefore, just as it is for fire and water, it is impossible for propulsion and culmination to be mistaken for one another. Since in all the sutras that establish cause and result, there are very clear and frequent quotations about this, it is not necessary to repeat them here. However, the Abhidharma Samuccaya says that what is black, black results ripen. That is non-virtue. Furthermore, to what is white, white results ripen, namely the virtue of the three realms. Finally, to what is both black and white, the result of black and white appears, which is a combination particularly pertaining to the realm of desire. Through this teaching on white and black motivation and means, which are explained as black motivation and white means, white motivation and black means, and non-cankerous karma on the path of preparation and non-obstruction, where action is not black, does not mature into white results, and destroys karma. An admixture of white and black karma and ripening does not appear to be taught. However, some say, okay, now is Sakya Pandita. Yeah. Again, I don't think we need to go into it. You on your own, if you want to look at exactly, why Sakya Pandita put it differently, then you can look more closely. Now let's look at those stories. Under notes. Before the story, Jigten Sungön denies the possibility of a virtuous propulsion combined with a non-virtuous culmination. So whatever propels, the same result is going to come. So indirectly, we can say Sakya Pandita quoting some other sutras. So Sakya Pandita didn't come up with it himself. He's also reading other sutras that seems to suggest someone was propelled by a virtuous intention, but somehow the result end up non-virtuous. Or the result end up not non-virtuous, undesirable. Yeah, so Sakya Pandita will have these types of explanations, like, sometimes, the action is skillful, but then somehow the result is undesirable. That can also happen, he says. Sometimes the action is non-virtuous, and then the result turns out to be good. So there, Jigten Sungön is quite aware of those examples or stories. But then Jigten Sungön will say, that is just superficial looking at what's going on. You're just not seeing that there were other factors involved. That would be the gist of how Jigten Sumgön will kind of respond if he was asked by someone, by Sakya Pandita, and say, hey, what about these places? There are these stories like this. Jigten Sumgön will say, no. You are not seeing the intervening things that are going on. So Jigten Sumgön denies the possibility of a non-virtuous propulsion combined with a non-virtuous combination. If there is a combination of virtuous and evil causes, the result is a combination of pleasant and unpleasant results. But if one analyzes it, each unpleasant result within that combination has an evil cause, and each pleasant result within that combination has a virtuous cause. A combination of good and evil within a single result is not possible. Jigten Sumgön and Sakya Pandita agree about cases where both the propulsion and the combination are virtuous. One example of the above is given in the story of King Bimbisara. He was a contemporary of the Buddha, king of Magadha, and father of Ajatasattu. His life was interwoven with that of the Buddha, whom he served on many occasions. His actions were virtuous at the beginning, middle, and end. On the other hand, an example of someone who held wrong views through the beginning, middle, and end is the Buddha's cousin, Devadatta. Now, of particular interest are the many cases of people with mixed causes, which is probably, majority of us are in this category of mixed causes. Shunashatra, for instance, at the beginning was a wicked person who saw the Buddha as misleading his disciples. The result of his wickedness was rebirth in hell. But since he finally developed faith, took ordination, and entered the Mahayana, he was also predicted to be one who would enter nirvana. Vajra Statement 528 states that the Buddha himself pulled him out of hell. So we'll look when we go to chapter 5. Also what it means that the Buddha pulled him out of hell. Because generally we say, nobody can pull us out of hell. So this should not be taken literally. The Buddha pulled him out of hell. If that was possible, Buddha would have pulled all of us, all the beings who are in hell realms now, all the Buddha's great compassion. The Buddhas will be busy fishing them out of hell. So just kind of footnote that, Another example is Ajatasattu. He was the son of Bimbisara, who would kill his father and follow Buddha's cousin Devadatta when the latter caused a schism in the Sangha. Later, he repented his evil deeds through the four powers and became a fervent follower of the Buddha. The Dorshema states that he thereby thinned out and exhausted non-virtue, and that he had to experience the consequences because cause and result do not lose their specific type like a viable seed. Thus, he caught smallpox, and everyone throughout the entire region of Magadha could smell his stench. So he was able to purify Ajatasattu. So again, the principle of purifying negative karma nonetheless remains. But Jigten Sumgön is careful to not cause his disciples to be overconfident about the power of purifying. You could say that he is more concerned that we avoid creating rather than busy purifying at the end. I remember an anecdote. Apparently, some missionaries went to see Gandhi, probably when Gandhi was already kind of known. some Christian missionaries went to see Gandhi, something like that. And so, of course, they tried, to maybe convert him. And so they tell them about Jesus's power and ability to take away the sins of those who accept him. And apparently Gandhi responded by saying, I'm something like, I'm comforted to know that, there is a God that will forgive and take away someone's sins. But he said, but right now I'm more interested in following a God that teaches me how not to sin. Rather than one who will forgive my sins. Yes. So you could say, Jigten Sumgun here, like, yes, you can purify, you can lessen, you can, but now you're already trying to, we can say, like deal with spilled milk, right? In English saying, you're trying to, undo the spilling of milk. It's already spilled, it's a little bit difficult now. Not impossible, but a little difficult now. Thus he caught smallpox, and then the whole region could smell his stench. Furthermore, Sri Gupta was a householder in Shravasti. He, on the advice of his naked spiritual guide, and there were these ascetics who were naked, endeavored to destroy the life of Gautama, but became convinced of the Buddha's supreme qualities. He repented of his former actions and took refuge in the Buddha. In the previous statement, we have already read about King Suradatta, who ordered the monk bodhisattva Supushpachandra to be killed and dismembered. Since the bodhisattva's remains did not rot, Supushpachandra realized his evil fault and repented. He was born in hell and other lower realms for many eons, but finally became Shakyamuni Buddha. This was one of the past lives of Shakyamuni Buddha. In this life, when he was King Suradatta. And so this is one example that people might say, oh, see, he harmed a bodhisattva, then eventually he became Shakyamuni Buddha. But Jigten Sungwan will say, be careful here, The harming part is never good. The final example is the story of Shrona Kotikarna, a butcher, an adulterer, and a Brahmin woman who had fed the noble Katyayana. Katyayana is one of Buddha's disciples. Shrona Kotikarna was born with an immensely valuable jewel as an ear ornament. Later in life, despite his already considerable wealth, he decided to become a merchant. Before leaving with the caravan, however, he became angry and spoke harshly to his mother because she had reacted fearfully when he announced his intention to join the caravan. As a karmic result of that, maybe, so which is unclear, he lost his caravan and came to a city populated by hungry ghosts, where in a heavenly palace he met a former butcher who had slaughtered many animals. Having slaughtered by day and practiced religion by night, he was now tortured by day, but enjoyed the palace by night. So there's a story of someone like that, In the daytime, he's in the hell realms. In the nighttime, he's transferred into a special palace because there was this guy who did this, a butcher. Daytime, he was slaughtering. Afternoon, he was maybe doing his mantras and purifying and all of that. Next, he met a man who was coddled by day by a beautiful woman and eaten by a giant snake at night. Because this man had lived as a Brahmin, as in a pure ascetic by day, and by night, he was an adulterer, having a whole ring of affairs sleeping around. So then in the next life, daytime he was coddled by a beautiful woman, at night he's eaten by a snake. continuously. In our commentaries, these stories are presented as examples of virtuous causes having pleasant results, non-virtuous causes having unpleasant results. But they're never mixed and never confused for one another. Any questions or comments?
When Shakyamuni Buddha was living in the hell as Supushpakamra, was he helping people there?
Sorry, say that again.
Was he helping?
He wasn't Supushpachandra. He was the king Suradatta.
Oh, wow. But he was born in the hell. In hell realm. So
yes,
he was helping someone there in hell?
Not necessarily. We don't know in this case.
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't say. Yeah. The main point is, so the story is the king, Suradatta, which was one of Shakyamuni's past lifetimes, he killed a bodhisattva. So that was very heavy negative karma. But then when the body of the bodhisattva did not rot, but instead give out, fragrance, he realized, oh my gosh, this is a very special being. So he repented. He felt very bad and he felt very sorry and all of that. So the killing of the bodhisattva, he was born in the hell realm. But other reasons that he became Buddha Shakyamuni, he did not become Buddha Shakyamuni because he killed the bodhisattva.
Okay.
Yeah. So this 410, how they occur or ripen separately without mistake, is pointed out by Sovich that it's like in the first statement of dependent origination. Having determined virtue and non-virtue as the two alternatives, there is no neutral action. So there in that commentary, it says, if you have a handful of barley and pea seeds and you throw into the ground, then when the conditions are right, the barley seed and the pea is going to sprout. When they sprout, even though if you look from afar, it might look like, oh, it's a mix of barley and pea, but there is no hybrid that resulted. If you go look closely, you will see, oh, that's barley, oh, that's pea, oh, that's barley, oh, pea, oh, pea, oh, pea over here, oh, barley, barley, barley. They sprout separately and distinctly. For 11, people claim that the resolve for awakening is lost through such things as the 4 black dharmas, which are faults similar to a defeat. Here, these 4 black dharmas are talking about when we have taken bodhisattva vow, when we have generated bodhicitta, there are four things, particularly, that are said to be similar to how, in the monks' context, monks and nuns, there are four main vows that are called defeats, meaning you are defeated if you commit any of these four faults. In the monks and nuns' vows, if you killed a human being, if you stole from the sangha, if you have sexual intercourse, and if you what's the fourth one? I don't remember the fourth. Oh, you claim to have supernatural powers. If you create any of these four, you are defeated as a monk or nun, meaning you can no longer be monk or nun, according to the Vinaya. So here, the four black dharmas is, according to the bodhisattva vows, there are also these four things. It's a different list of four that is said to be similar in disqualifying, so to say, you as having the bodhisattva vow. Generally speaking, you will see how Kyoba Rinpoche is going to nuance this understanding. So here, Kyoba Rinpoche says, except for their being the cause of forgetting, it is impossible that the resolve for awakening is lost through the four black dharmas. So here, Kyoba Rinpoche says, actually no. These four black dharmas, or these four negative actions, at most what they cause is, they cause you to easily forget your bodhicitta. They do not destroy your bodhicitta. Elsewhere in a commentary or in a Vajra statement, I don't remember, it's clarified that the only way you actually lose your resolve, your bodhicitta, is when you actively say, I don't want this anymore. This is stupid. This is impossible. This is misguided. I reject bodhicitta. Then, yes, obviously, gone. But anything short of that, at most it can cause you to forget your resolve, but that resolve, once it is made, it's always there. With that one caveat, that you actively reject it. Otherwise, that resolve, once made, it remains. This is how powerful this resolve is. Bodhicitta, relative bodhicitta, aspiration, especially the aspiration part. The Sarva Punya Sutra teaches that the noble man, unstained brilliance, who cultivated the resolve for awakening during the teaching period of Buddha Krakuchanda, forgot the resolve for awakening because he had committed the four black dharmas. Nevertheless, the Buddha prophesied him as one who would awaken. Furthermore, in the Ratnakutta Sutra and the Gandhaviha Sutra, it is similarly taught that the resolve for awakening is not lost through the cause of forgetting it. So you forgetting it is not going to make you lose it. The Buddhahood focused on through the resolve is an inconceivable object. The root of the virtue of focusing on Buddhahood cannot be exhausted by samsaric pleasure and happiness. 3, the Buddha embryo, or Buddha nature, exists in all beings as a permanent nature. And 4, the training and cultivating the resolve becomes the vow of the actualization of the resolve through any virtuous activity. Due to these four vital points, it is impossible to lose the resolve for awakening. If this resolve for awakening that is like a Vajra diamond is not destroyed by the wrong view that is like a sheep's horn, the resolve for awakening that is like a diamond, Vajra diamond, quickly reappears undigested by the digestive fire, even if it gets into the stomach, and except for being the cause of forgetting, cannot possibly be completely lost. So here it's said in the commentary, it says, even wrong view actually cannot destroy this resolve. At most, it will cause you to forget and therefore delay your ability to be awakened. And Chodrak gives 4 reasons why this resolve, once it has arisen, will never be lost. So maybe according to this statement here, this commentary here, even if you actively reject, maybe you still cannot get rid of it. So we're not clear yet. Let's see. Very strong here, saying, it's not so easy to lose it. Yeah. You see how actually, we've seen how in the Gongchik, there's often another statement to kind of balance out the statements that we have seen before this. Brings home the point of how virtue and non-virtue we need to see clearly and carefully. We've got to be careful not to harm bodhisattvas, knowingly, unknowingly, and so on and so forth, right? Just when you are, maybe like scared the bejesus, that, you're going to, easily get in trouble, this statement comes and says, but once you have the bodhi resolve, it will not go away. The Dorshema mentions a view according to which the 4 black dharmas constitute defeat-like faults. Such faults make the existence of the resolve for awakening impossible. And this view is sometimes attributed to Atisha. Attributed, we don't know if Atisha actually hold this view. Jigten Sumgun denies the 4 black dharmas as follows. Defines. So these are the 4 black dharmas. To deceive the guru and those worthy of reverence. So we got to be careful not to do this, to deceive our guru. Because if you deceive the one that is trying to help you, or the one that you have asked to help you, if you deceive them, then how in the world are you going to? We all do that, How? People are like, oh, yes, I have to go see the doctor tomorrow. So today, I'm only going to eat salads. Or next week, I have to go see the doctor. So today on, I will only eat salads. And, you try to cheat your blood work, that doesn't reflect, your true state. Oh, going to the dentist. But all the other days, don't brush, don't floss. That's what we do. To make up hateful lies about a bodhisattva who has cultivated the resolve for awakening. So competition, jealousy. Then we make up stories about someone else Like, so in the Dharma context, someone else who have bodhicitta. So in Dharma center context, especially in the Dharma community, it's easy to do number two. And number one is, you could say, your vertical relationships in your Dharma context. Your vertical relationships, how you relate to those that you look up to. Number two is how you relate to those, your horizontal relationships. To feel regret about others' root of virtue. So this is like the jealousy. Feel regret in the sense of jealousy. When you see other people doing well in the Dharma, you have this kind of like, to mislead and deceive beings. So these are the four. Despite the weight of these offenses, Jigten Sumgön maintains that they do not cause the loss of the resolve for awakening. The point of the Suvarna Punya Sutra, according to its canonical version and the Dorshema, is that a previously cultivated resolve may be forgotten due to the four black dharmas. Later, however, due to the earlier roots of virtue and to being protected by that resolve, it can be recultivated. For that reason, the Buddha's prediction was vindicated, a prediction of that person. In the future, you will become a Buddha. The argument is that the four black dharmas cause only a temporary interruption of the resolve, whereas a loss would be a complete abandonment. Yeah, so yes, you can still abandon bodhicitta. But short of actively abandoning, this resolve will not completely disappear, even if you have done very the four black dharmas. Through forgetting the resolve's power diminishes. But as long as no perverted views arise in the mental continuum, it is not entirely lost, because as Dorje Sherab stated, having focused on Buddhahood during the resolve, the root of virtue that arises from tossing a single flower into the sky will never end. Tossing a single flower into the sky means making an offering to the Buddhist. Even as simple as tossing one flower into the sky. If you have bodhicitta, that the result of even tossing a single flower into the sky remains unending. And will in fact eradicate suffering. Even trivial roots of virtue of focusing on Buddhahood will never be wasted up to one's attainment of the ultimate Buddha stage. Even just entertaining the thought that I want to be Buddha, even if you cannot follow up with the appropriate actions immediately, that thought is so powerful. And through any virtuous activity, the resolve will turn into the vow of the actualization. So once you have aspiration bodhicitta, right, then your application bodhicitta, your engagement bodhicitta, your action bodhicitta can be accomplished with all your other actions. Even your ordinary actions can become that, can become application bodhicitta. The commentaries, moreover, compare the resolve for awakening to a Vajra diamond. Apart from a sheep's horn, that is wrong views, nothing can destroy it. Okay. So here, actually, the wrong views would be the abandonment. As I said earlier, if you actively, and because of wrong views, you say, oh, bodhicitta is terrible. Why would you want to have that for others? I don't want that. I reject that. That is the only thing that can cause bodhicitta to be destroyed. So this is based on this analogy. Of course, I don't think it's true. But this is using the analogy. It's apparently a sheep's horn can destroy a diamond. So those of you who have diamonds, don't connect the tip of a sheep's horn with a diamond. Although no one has tried it, at least I don't think in this room anyone has brought a diamond to go point at the sheep's horn. Maybe it's true, but I doubt. Anyway, the analogy. The commentators compare the four black dharmas to the gastric juices of the digestive process of the sheep. Sheep can digest such harsh grass and roots. Its horn can destroy a diamond, but its gastric juices cannot. After a while, this diamond will reappear undigested. That's 411. So today, I think we will stop here. The first day, we're stopping half an hour before the end. Because 412, I think we want to look more carefully. Not because it's difficult, but that there is a list of what's known as the three obscurations. I think we want to discuss that in more detail, the three obscurations. Basically, the gist of this is the three obscurations or the three afflictions. Again, normally it's divided into three, into the karmic obscuration, the afflictive obscuration, and the obscuration of knowledge, meaning having full knowledge of a Buddha. So there is the veil or the obscuration that is karma. Then there is the obscuration which is klesha. Then the obscuration which is preventing us from seeing everything clearly. These three. So generally it's said that these are three types of obscurations. Jigten Sumgön says actually all three are basically the obscuration of klesha. Klesha is primary. From klesha, then karmic obscuration is the grosser form. And the obscuration of knowledge is the more subtle aspect. So Jigten Sumgön wants to say, will point out, the root is klesha, basically, afflictive emotions, the obscuration of afflictive emotions. So that has some interesting implications that we can look at. The commentaries and the notes don't say much, but I think there's a little bit we can talk about there, like the kind of the practical aspect of, okay, and therefore why? Therefore what is the take-home lesson? That although generally it's said that there are three obscurations, but the chief, they are of one nature, which is the obscuration of afflictive emotions, klesha. That is in the next statement. And then 13, all systems of tenets obscure the truth. So this is talking about all philosophies obscure the truth. And so so the next few is about this chapter on bodhicitta training is very interesting. It's not just about love and compassion. In fact, it's a lot about karma. Points about karma. And next, so far we've looked at how it's about karma, right? Then next, soon we'll look at the aspect of under this chapter of bodhicitta, it's about advanced stages of the path and how at various levels along these stages of a bodhisattva, we will abandon, we will do away with, we will purify various types of wrong views. So in fact, according to this understanding, I would say this deeper understanding of the stages, as well as the views or the framework. So you can say that, there are four tenet systems, right? The four philosophical traditions of Indian Buddhism, often called the Sautrantika, Vaibhashika, Chittamatra, and Madhyamaka. Especially those of you who your background is Tibet House, you know these terms. Right? You're well schooled in that area. Others I don't know, but you guys I know. Right? You have learned these terms. So normally these four, in the context of Buddhist philosophy, are debated as different views that one could hold. But the way Jigten Sungön will treat these views, he will treat them as your level of understanding. So that no, it's not about whether you can quote chapter and verse. Oh, Nagarjuna says this. Oh, Vasubandhu says that. Oh, Dijnana says that. Oh, Maitreya says that. He says no. That level of holding the views or mastering these philosophies is superficial. And in fact, he's not really interested in that. So, for example, we'll see later how, for example, Chittamatra, the mind-only view, for him, again, he's not interested in the mind-only philosophical position where you can go debate, what are the strengths of that view, what are the weaknesses, and how it is a lower view compared to Madhyamaka, how it's a higher view compared to Vaibhashika and Sautrantika, all of that. He's not interested. He says the true meaning of Vaibhashika, of Chittamatra, is the seventh bodhisattva bhumi. That's only when you achieve the seventh bodhisattva bhumi, you can say, now I have the Chittamatra understanding. Anything less than that, you can pretend to have Chittamatra, but you are not. By this, in understanding the levels and the stages, so like the Hinayana, Mahayana, Vajrayana as well, so any and all in general of the way Jigten Sungön treats all these stages, right? He will say, no, it's not about, like what lineage, what tradition, what philosophical position. No, this is about how our mind ripens along the process of ripening. So we might say, I practice Vajrayana. Often what we mean is, I have tankas, I have bell and dorje, and my tankas, have very weird looking deities, not just like Shakyamuni sitting peacefully, My Buddha have horns or wings, or breasts, Oh, I'm practicing Vajrayana. Yeah? And Jigten Sungön say, no, really. You only enter the Vajrayana when you are on the 8th bhumi, according to him. Yeah. So those are profound implications, how you enter the Vajrayana when you're on the 8th bhumi. Before that, you might have Vajrayana look. Yeah. But you're not truly yet, far from Vajrayana. Yeah? So in a way, you can say that there are two levels of understanding what it means to say, I'm practicing Vajrayana and I am at the Vajrayana level. Of course, right now we are practicing Vajrayana, but we're not yet at the Vajrayana level. So when the teachings talk about things like in the Vajrayana, ... we really have to ask this question. Is it talking about in the Vajrayana as in, the practice level? Or is it talking about 8th bhumi? Often when we confuse the two, then we get all confused. So it might say, at the Vajrayana, in Vajrayana, all phenomena is pure, right? If you think, oh, I'm a Vajrayana practitioner, therefore all phenomena is pure. Mm-mm. It's saying, in the Vajrayana, when you have arrived at the 8th bhumi, you can now actually experience all phenomena as pure. Meaning all phenomena as empty of intrinsic existence. Prior to that, you entertain the possibility and you practice pretending that all phenomena is pure. That pretending can, scrub away the obscurations. Yes. So the pretending is a skillful pretending, but don't confuse that as and say, oh, now I'm a Vajrayana practitioner. So everything is allowed because everything is pure. Oh, anger is allowed. Desire is allowed. Well, are you in the 8th level bodhisattva? But even at the 8th level bodhisattva, right, as we have seen, allowed doesn't mean no ripening of negative karma. Allowed, as in the Buddha says, yes, at this level, you have the capacity to handle suffering. So you are allowed now. But the suffering will be there. But because you're strong enough, that the suffering is not going to derail you. Therefore, you are allowed. But you are not allowed in the sense that you get a get out of jail free pass, So in a way, you can say, you are allowed to speed now. Because you have arrived at a level of driving where you're so skilled that you're allowed to speed now. What does that mean? Including, it means not only are you not going to crash into anyone because you are so skilled now, you can also avoid the cops from catching up with you because you are skilled enough. But if you are caught, if you crash, there will be pain. Yeah? So this analogy is something like this. So in that sense, you are allowed, but not that you are allowed if you get caught, you just bring out your bodhisattva 8th level card and say, I get out of jail free. No, you still will be jailed if you get caught. And if you crash, there is no bodhisattva force field to bring out and say, oh, I have bodhisattva 8th level, in this crash, I will not suffer. No, you will. Yeah. So allowed is that understanding that yes, you have now become skilled enough to drive dangerously, but if you get caught, if you crash, suffering is entailed. And then, of course, also there, when suffering is entailed, you will also not give up the path. You will fully understand, of course, this is how it works. Questions, comments?
I think you just answered it, but when you say bodhisattvas can handle suffering, I mean, we all handle suffering.
Well, bodhisattvas of a certain type can handle certain types of suffering.
But that means that they can experience suffering without creating more negative karma.
Oh, yes.
As opposed to we handle suffering as long as we keep going, but we keep perpetuating the suffering.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So at the 8th level, especially, when they undergo suffering, they don't create more suffering. And not only that, we saw in the commentary where it says, not only not creating suffering, they can even, on the basis of that, feel even more deeply for others who are suffering. Whereas when we suffer, mostly it's, this is all the fault of so-and-so.
Misery loves company.
Yes. And go about, giving other people more suffering. It's so unfair, blah, 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 But for bodhisattvas, if for bodhisattvas, like especially 8th bhumi, or even 1st bhumi bodhisattvas, when they begin to experience suffering, the suffering makes them so stronger. And Shantideva says, some people, become more brave at the sight of blood. Others, even their own blood, they will faint. Even when there's no danger, but you just see blood, you faint. Whereas others, see blood in a dangerous situation, they become more brave. Those are talking about bodhisattvas, become more brave, the example is like, other, bodhisattvas, the advanced bodhisattvas. Non-bodhisattvas, like when we see other people's blood, we faint. Much then ourselves, of course, we even worse, but bodhisattvas are just the opposite, So one of the key characteristics, therefore, one of the key qualities of bodhisattvas is really courage. Courage not, from being kind of idiot courage, but courage that comes from understanding. And courage can come from understanding. So if we feel like we don't have a lot of courage, then we can focus on developing understanding, because understanding can enhance courage. Then courage can further fuel understanding. Yeah. So anyway, if you have registered for Kenjen Rinpoche's teachings the first time around, then you should have gotten an email yesterday sent out an update on the next 3 teachings in the next 3 Saturdays, or first 3 Saturdays of December. If you did not get that email again and again, it's somewhere in your mail reader. You need to go fish it out. If you use Gmail, I had to do something on Gmail to mark all the emails that come from info@udharma.nc as basically you have to do something on Gmail to make it like, in your contact list. Then it will always come to your main inbox. Otherwise, it gets pushed into the promotions folder, the social folder, which I never look. So you have to do some things like that. Yeah. Then Drigong Dharma Kirti Sangha. I think we will start the first Sangha practice on the first Wednesday of December. First Wednesday of December. We normally start at 7 New York time, 7 p.m. And we go from 7 to 9. So the first Wednesday of December. For people who have been doing the Gongchik, or people who have been doing Kagyu Sangha already, then the only real change is, that we are bringing more people, and then we are going to start with a set of practices that I will, restart, and so that everyone has kind of the same kind of reference point for Wednesday practice. So nothing will change. For the new people who are joining, I'm still figuring out a way to keep them kind of focused and committed. I don't want comings and goings that can be very distracting. So I've mentioned, I might do something like for people who are completely new, because they're testing things out and things like that. I want them to make a commitment, some sort of financial commitment for the first 3 months. Then if they choose to stay, then they are freed of the financial commitment. It's the other way around. It becomes free when you go long term, so to say, or at least free of anything fixed when you become long term. When you're still shopping, then you'll be charged for your shopping. That will minimize. Unfortunately, these days, this is the only way it seems that we understand commitment. If I put a price tag on it, I really hate doing that because of pride. Oh, I don't want people to think that I like money. Of course I like money. Everybody likes money. But I don't want people to think I like money. So I'm not going to say, you have to pay this much or that much each month. But really, as I say, got to get over myself. If I want the program to, to turn out well, I might have to do that. So if you are inviting your other friends or to join, be aware if they ask. You don't want to say, oh no, anybody can join. You have to say like, yes. It's open to everyone, but if you're new, there will be some, requirements that will be announced. So I'm going to figure out what that is. That's why I need until first week of December. I need to think more about how to communicate this. Yeah. Changchu Semcho Rinpoche Ma Ge Ba Nam Ge Gyurche Ge Ba Nyam Ba Me Ba Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Biao Wer Shou.
Thank you.
Ta 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 ta.